adjustment. We'll start with our roll call to my left.
William Pearlstein.
Jan Conacy.
Mackenzie Pete.
Edith Heron.
Mark Saunders.
And Barry Brandt. Welcome, everyone. Okay, and did we get any additional correspondence on this case at all? Okay, nothing? All right, let's get started. This afternoon, the board is meeting to continue our May case for 101 South Boardwalk. As previously explained, the board will apply the quick check factors that Delaware law recognizes as guidance for Board of Adjustments. Under Delaware law, an applicant for an area variance must prove that the requirements create an exceptional practical difficulty. To determine whether an exceptional practical difficulty exists, the board must weigh the following 4 factors: the nature of the zone where the property lies, the character and use of the immediate vicinity, whether removal of the restriction on the applicant's property would seriously affect the neighboring properties and their uses, and number 4, whether failure to remove the restriction would create an exceptional practical difficulty for the owner in relation to the owner's efforts to make normal improvements to the property. This standard is satisfied only when the difficulties alleged by the owner are practical rather than theoretical and exceptional rather than routine. Everyone who wishes to speak today will be required to be sworn in under oath. I will ask our attorney, Ms. Pete, to administer the oath. We do not have a court reporter present, so anyone who's speaking, just please speak into the microphone, and we allow anyone who can't hear or having trouble, we can just stop and get closer to the microphone. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak today? I know, in addition to, we know you, no, maybe, okay. We'll swear everyone back in when the time comes. And finally, you may see the board members using electronic devices on occasion. These are devices some of the board members use to look at detailed drawings like we have submitted today, and at no time is any board member communicating with anyone on this. So today's case is 0424-04, and at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, Chair, and happy Friday Eve. Before you again is 0424-04. As a reminder, this application is a variance request to Section 27019 use restrictions, restaurants. In addition to the standards of the relevant zoning district, an establishment that meets the definition of a restaurant where alcoholic liquor is sold or consumed on the premises shall comply with the following. 4, the sum of the floor space devoted to permanent seated dining area and bar area in any building shall not exceed 2,500 square feet, except that where a restaurant occupies space in a building also housing a hotel motel containing at least 25 bedrooms, the area so devoted may be up to, but not more, excuse me, than 3,750 square feet. Obviously, this is not a hotel, so the beginning of that code section applies. The numbers, as a refresher for this, when we last spoke about it was, recall that there are 2 restaurant occupancies in one building. Above the dunes contains 2,310 square feet of dining area and 500 square feet of bar area for a total of 2,810 square feet for just above the dunes. This variance request is for the addition of 769 square feet of seated dining and 256 square feet of bar area for a total of 1,025 square feet in the spaces shown. The total overall seating and bar area for the entire building would then add up to 3,835 square feet, which is 1,335 square feet over the allowable amount of total service area. Again, the conclusion is because that code is infracted, it obviously needs a variance to go forward with the liquor sale portion of this. It is important to remember that the restaurant can exist without liquor sales in that building.
Thank you, Matt. Is this a new report, Matt, or the same report?
This is just a recollection of the report that I read into the record for the previous meeting.
Thank you. Okay.
I have questions.
Matt, I'd like to kind of go back to basics a little bit, make sure we're all square here.
Certainly.
Thank you. You're always so flexible to do that. I appreciate it. The first question is, on your report, the second bullet at the bottom under application background information, you said as approved by the commissioners. Were those the city commissioners or Board of Adjustment commissioners, or?
Yeah, that's these city commissioners. So
Okay.
the numbers that I pulled for that bullet point was directly from the permit of compliance that's approved at the above the dunes establishment.
Okay, and when was that done, please? Do you have that handy, or get a good guesstimate?
Applicant could probably give you a better date, but I would say probably 4 or 5 years ago.
It was June of 2022.
Yeah,
June 2022.
little off on my estimation.
Well, that happens to all of us. Ever since COVID, I think
And
all
it
our
feels like he's
timelines are a
been
little,
It feels like he's been there for quite some time too.
right. So just so that I understand, they have 2,310 square feet of dining and 500 square feet of bar at above the dunes,
Yes, ma'am.
for a total of 2,810. So
Correct.
already, they are 310 square feet over the 2,500 for the building according to zoning. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So right now, they're already, and they have, then that variance that was given, or whatever was given to them, they weren't given a variance for that? Or how did they get to already pass the zoning code in June of 2022 without being at the Board of Adjustment?
Certainly, great question. And certainly you can ask the same question of the applicant. My recollection, it was the Green Turtle was existing
Yes.
prior to Above the Dunes.
Right.
I don't know the history of the Green Turtle, of what they went through for the variance request, et cetera. It may be important to obviously ask the applicant. But the space was taken over from the Green Turtle, and it was just allowed to exist it was just allowed to go forward with the existence and the approved spaces that it already contained.
So when the commissioners, in your statement on your report here, as approved by the commissioners, that again, it wasn't the Board of Adjustment commissioners, it was the city commissioners approved essentially a variance. Is that how you interpret it, or what do you?
No, it not necessarily a variance,
Okay.
more of an existing nonconformity that perpetuated.
Okay. But there is another variance, is that true, for the Green Turtle? That was brought up last time, and I was a little fuzzy on that after I left. I went over and wrote all my questions out to be sure
I
I
believe there
understood.
is an existing variance for the Green Turtle.
I can answer that because I raised it at the last meeting. I had it with me.
Okay,
The Green Turtle has a variance. It was very controversial when they got it. It was in the newspaper, public, and so, as we know, well, the variance goes with the space. So when they went for when Above the Dunes went for their permit of compliance, it wasn't an issue with the commissioners because they already had the variance back, I believe, maybe 2008. Around that time. And it's right on the website. Why the building inspector, I'm sorry, Matt, why he did not have it included in his report, I don't know. I am not a genius with searching online, and I found it by typing in variance Green Turtle, and it came up. So yes, there is a variance that was given.
and is it for the extra 310 square
Yes,
feet?
yes, it was to
So-
exceed.
Okay, but is there a window of measurement? Because I know sometimes when we grant variances, we say not more than on something, so I don't know. Were they given 2810 period, or were they, or?
That I'm surprised that Matt doesn't have it, but no, I didn't bring it back with me,
Okay.
Edie. But they got the variance. The code has since changed on restaurants, and there was no. I don't think going back to, and maybe Barry can say, when Tom Evans and Jerry, I don't believe they had lots of. We put sometimes restrictions and stuff. I don't think
Not
they
many.
did.
Yeah, not many.
They did
You're right.
back then.
So that they were just given a blanket variance to
No,
exceed?
they were given a variance for the number of square feet they needed. And that was it, but now,
So it's probably the
Tracking
2810.
restrictions was,
Sure.
difficult.
Oh, I
you know,
understand.
yeah.
I'm not,
so they had the variance. So when it came up for the permit of compliance at this last time, then they already had a variance. Variance goes with the building, and so it was already approved at that size. Now they just need, and so, anyway, yes, it's right online, and you can read all the articles in the Cape Gazette at the time, too.
Okay. I have some more, Matt. Please. So I have a disconnect with the numbers. I'm always a number checker here, and I'm not sure I quite understand. So if you can go to the schematic, Matt, please. And it's the color codes, and there are a number of square feet next to each area. There's a legend next to it. And we have 769 square feet of dining, and that's correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that matches what you said. If I go to page 2 of your report, under variances requested, after you quote 2719, the proposed use of the restaurant, blah, 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 would add 769 square foot of seating area. Check mark. I agree. I mean, that matches everything. But I don't see where the 256 comes from, Matt, and I'm hoping you can help me.
So the 256 is the two numbers added together. So when
Which number?
So it's for the bar area.
Yeah?
It's the seating and the back bar. It is included all in one number for the bar area itself.
Okay, so
So the red
excuse me.
section, if you look at the applicant's submitted documents, the red section and the yellow section get added together for the total bar area.
Well, the red section,
So you're looking at 120 for the bar seating.
correct.
And 136 for the red back bar area, which gives you the 256 total of the bar, the total bar area.
I'm not seeing the 136, I'm sorry.
It is the small number underneath the box that says bar. So you see bar, then it says
On the actual plan.
013, and then the square footage is listed under that as 136 square feet.
I'm still not seeing that here, maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. And where do I look here?
It
you
would
can help
be
me.
in the bar area, so you see my red 255.
I do, I see that.
So beside that is a very small indicator of what the area is, the
Oh, with
call
the
out for the
microscope.
tag,
Oh,
the room tag,
Very
and then
small.
below that it lists
What is
square
that,
footage.
0.3 point? Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's the 120 that's yellow in the legend next to it,
That's right.
which is bar seated area, and then you're saying it's an additional
136 for the back bar.
136. Okay, which gives us 256, excuse me, and I agree that adds up to 125 square feet. But what I don't understand now is that on the, let's see, on the agenda, and as it's been stated all along in the description of the case, it says 1,006 square footage. I don't understand that. That's a disconnect for me. Instead of 1,000, I would think that would say 1,025, but maybe I'm not reading where that should be. If you look at the agenda and the description of the case, the third line center says, okay,
When the public notice is done, it's done way before he even starts his report.
okay,
So Matt and I sit down and he gives me an approximate.
I see. Okay. All right, well, that does explain that, and thanks very much, Ann. I didn't realize that there was, that was an area that I'll know that in the future then.
If I may, and so for clarification, the requested variance then is in the amount of 1,025 square feet? Not 1,006 or
It's 1,335.
335 square feet? Okay,
Right, 1335.
okay.
So, right, so I'm agreeing that number works, but, so what we're saying is we're essentially adding the 310, but do we count that the 310 extra that was with the green turtle or wherever that is in the?
Yeah, that doesn't just disappear. That has to go
Right,
along with the
because we
total.
still have the 2,500 per,
Right,
okay. So
Correct.
we still work with that no matter what was given previously to the Green Turtle or Above the Dunes.
that's right.
Is that correct? Okay. So, and this is an opinion question, Matt, for you. As I'm looking over this, I'm wondering, how do you characterize the real problem here? Is it the building, is it 2 restaurants in 1 building that we don't have? Because remember, we talked about that at the hearing, that we were trying to think of another situation here in the city where there are 2 restaurants in 1 building. We thought of several restaurants that have more than 1 floor, but we didn't have that situation. Or is it the previous variance and the holdover here with the square footage? I mean, are both a problem? Where is the decision point here from your perspective?
Sure, it's a very uncommon occurrence here.
Yes.
And so I think, in light of that, you've got to look at it on its own entirety and make your judgment from there.
Okay.
Again, it's very limited in scope for what we see throughout buildings.
And we have to remember, we're talking liquor only, right?
That's
Right,
correct.
so.
That's
right,
correct.
So a lot of these numbers really don't matter. And are you done now? Do you mean chapter?
No, finish.
I was going to ask Matt, are we sure of the top floor, the above the dunes, that it is using as much as we think they're using? Since it changed from the green parrot, how do we know
Green
that
turtle.
it's not a green turtle? How do we know that it's not 80% liquor or 20% liquor or whatever? How do we know that the numbers from the green turtle transferred to above the dunes?
So
Because we're relying on those numbers.
Right, so the above the dunes is the approved numbers that the commissioners approve for the total of the permanent compliance. We take that into consideration, not to say that it has changed, but it certainly hasn't grown. If anything, it has been lessened in there. And we do inspections on a yearly basis to make sure the permanent compliance hasn't changed.
That would be important if it had lessened, though, because it would be in the favor
It would
today.
be, in this particular case, it would be, yes. But in most circumstances, if it decreases from the permanent compliance, it's not a violation. It's only a violation to increase
I
or
understand.
add seats.
And the last time it was inspected, it was still as it had been, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
You have any idea when that was? Recently, or?
I would
Roughly?
have to review records, but we do it on a yearly basis. And granted, building and license has slacked off in the past, but now that we have the proper staff to get this done, we're firing all that back up again.
Wonderful, great. Okay, thank you, that's all.
Okay, I have another area. We're changing hats just a little bit in terms of subject. The other area I felt in the hearing a couple weeks ago that seemed a little murky to me was the sequence of events between the applicant, his attorney, you. There were different kinds of things going on. So now that you've had access to your records and some time to think, I'm wondering what's your best recollection of the sequence of events between you, the applicant, or among you, the applicant, and his attorney, between the fall of 2023 and the present. We kind of went through that mix match last time, but I'm wondering now if I could have your chain of events as you saw it, because we think it was here, oh no, we think it was there, and we went back and forth.
Sure. I was pulsed probably at the end of last year at some point,
Pulsed mean,
contacted.
thank you.
And when you say end of last year, would you say October, November, December?
I have a record of, I believe it was November that I talked to Jay Becker on the phone.
Okay.
I can't say that
Sure.
conversation with Jay Becker was relative to this application or not. I only see record of the conversation that I had with him.
I see.
And Jay and I speak quite frequently on various applications. So it could have, it might not have been. Then at the beginning of the year, Bob started to pulse us on the building application, getting that restaurant approved and through the pipeline for the permitting process. We got him approved for the permits. And then Bob came in to talk to us about the permanent compliance at that point, probably around March, maybe February, but probably March. Was when we started the process with him to get the permanent compliance. We looked through the application at that point, determined You know, was the submission at that point complete in the documentation requirements? Once we realized that the documentations were correct, we took the application in, and then upon further closer review, we noted the variance need for this application.
And that closer review took place?
Probably not a couple days after the submission was formally like accepted.
So we're still talking February, March. I thought we had come to the conclusion that somebody from your office, if not you, had called Bob
there was a bit
just
of
before within a week or so of our meeting.
There was a bit of back and forth to adjust the documentation that was required for the permanent compliance.
Okay.
And then as a review, after the review and Ann and I discussed, we did place a call to Bob, excuse me, immediately upon realizing that we may have that we do have a code violation here.
Okay, and
What was that?
Month, right.
Couldn't have been more than a month prior to now, so I'm going to say at the beginning of May. I don't know exact date, but roughly around the beginning of May.
And did the material that was submitted to you, Matt, indicate that there would be a bar area?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and that was well before the beginning of May?
For the actual construction permit, yes.
And do you recall any discussion, the fact that there would be liquor served in the lower facility, was that a source of discussion? Did Jay or anybody else raise with you about whether that was going to be a problem, or is it just simply clear from the plans that that's what they were planning to do?
It was just clear from the plans that that was the intent, and to push the application forward.
And my understanding from the hearing a few weeks ago, it was Ann who raised fairly near the time that the public notice was going out that this might be an issue. Is that correct?
Yes, because this issue came up. It doesn't come up often. This issue came up roughly 2008, I believe it was, prior to my history here. So not saying that I shouldn't have known, but I wouldn't have known about that code and the implications that it held with previous applications. So I didn't have history with it.
I could just add to that quickly.
Wait,
Just for the record.
Is your mic on?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, just for the record, Matt does not authorize the service of alcohol. Just for the record, if this ever gets appealed.
What does
can you
that mean?
speak up a little bit, please?
That means that he does not authorize the service of alcohol.
We know that.
He does the zoning code, and so.
Know that.
Right, and.
But this is from the zoning code.
Right, yeah. And so the point of that is that there's no direct line between any decision Matt makes and the service of alcohol. It's just a piece of the puzzle after the zoning code is determined to be compliant. There's a permanent compliance hearing before the Board of Commissioners. Thereafter, it goes to the state. The alcohol commissioner of the state, as part of her checklist, will look to the local municipality. And so it's not a direct line between Matt and the service of alcohol.
But this is a zoning provision, correct?
Correct.
This is not about, the state doesn't say that you can't have the two service facilities in one building.
Correct.
The Rehoboth Beach code that Matt is responsible for is where this arises from, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
And that's
Bill-
not in any
Bill-
way to influence your decision. That's just to make the point that there's no reliance on a decision of Matt relating to the service of alcohol.
Okay. Bill, I'm going back to my notes from our meeting on, in May, or in, excuse me, at the end of May.
May 20th.
Yeah, and what I have is, yeah, Ann brought up in the permit compliance application. I had written that as well in my notes from last time.
And my memory, which I think Matt has confirmed, is that it was
May
quite
10th.
late in
May
the-
10th.
you know,
We were
quite
meeting
late
on the
in
20th.
process.
Well, the permit of compliance was already on the agenda for the mayor and commissioners, and it was removed from the agenda. It's already on the agenda again for June. So, I guess it's in preparation, hopeful for something, whatever.
I guess, Alex, what point are you trying to make to us
It's not a point
No, let me
to-
finish.
sorry.
In saying that Matt doesn't authorize the issuance of liquor license. That's not what this is about. This is not a question of whether the applicant qualifies for a liquor license. This is a question as to whether he can obtain a zoning approval in the city of Rehoboth Beach, and this is a city of Rehoboth Beach zoning provision. Do we have clear understanding on that?
Absolutely correct. And so to clarify, there's no intent to influence your decision or add information for you to consider. I'm adding information to the record to make clear that there's no detrimental reliance on any action Matt undertook.
Okay, I'm going to push you on that. Is it detrimental, are you saying that, Alex, because it has to do with the fact that it's a liquor license, or with respect to any provision of the zoning code, that no applicant is, I want to, I'm going to put words in your mouth, you tell me if it's right, that no applicant is entitled to rely on a city official's interpretation of the code. They are supposed to go and look at it themselves and then speak with their lawyers, and then ultimately what? I'm trying to understand what your point is about the reliance.
Yeah, I think my point is a little more nuanced than that. I think obviously there's a issue of being on notice of what's in the code. But that aside, it's Matt's zoning determinations is a piece of the puzzle in serving alcohol. There's just not a direct line between an action Matt undertakes and the service of alcohol. That's the only point I was trying to make.
No, but this is not a service of alcohol issue. This is a statement in the city of Rehoboth Beach zoning code that Matt, by his own admission, failed to alert the applicant and his lawyer to. I think the record is clear until quite late in the process that there was an issue. That does not have anything to do with liquor. It has to do with the fact that there was a provision in the zoning code that the applicant was not alerted to until very late in the process. That would apply irrespective of whether it was alcohol. It could apply with height limits or setbacks or anything else. Is that
correct.
fair?
Yep.
I agree with Bill. I
thank you.
think the board is clear on that, Bill, your point.
Yeah.
I do agree. I do have a question, Matt. In looking at 270-19 in total, because I'm trying to, in my mind, understand the exceptional practical difficulty. Under number 2, A2, the term is regularly used. Can you describe how the city views that term, especially for a beach community where it's very seasonal? Understanding the season that the restaurant would be open.
To me, that says it's regular functions. How is that restaurant used? Is regularly used and kept open principally for the business of serving complete meals.
It doesn't mean a calendar schedule. Is that putting words in your mouth?
Right.
Okay, thank you. Because there are other examples in the city. I just want to make sure to help me form my, what the practical difficulty. Okay, thank you.
My understanding is that the May hearing is all on the record now. And I guess I just have to share my extreme discomfort about this whole process, extreme discomfort. I raised the issue prior to the meeting that there was a variance, but it wasn't included in the building inspector's report. The zoning code specifically says 2 restaurants in the same building. There's been a court case on that. The city won the court case. So it's not, I'm a lot older than Matt, but these are all, in a record. If one is looking at a property, then one looks. If one is looking at the zoning code and sees you can only have so much square footage and if there's more than one restaurant in the building, blah, 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 blah. This is not rocket science. So we hear all of these things from the applicant at a meeting, and I just don't know how this happened, and I feel like we are put in a position that is untenable for the Board of Adjustment. I'm not a lawyer, you know, so maybe I could say things that maybe a lawyer wouldn't say, but we are put in a position where we're going to have to say to this guy who has spent all this money
And time.
preparing to open this restaurant based on inappropriate information. Now, I may have a question about your lawyer. Why didn't your lawyer know the fact that you can't have two restaurants that, you know, that exceed the total square footage in the same building? That's, you know, I don't know your lawyer, so, you know, I have no comment on that. But how did we get this far? How did this get this far in the city of Rehoboth Beach? I'm embarrassed.
If I may, whether it's the city or otherwise, I do think that in the variance context, these types of issues come up more frequently, perhaps not in the city of Rehoboth per se, but where there was reliance upon a professional and/or the local government, perhaps based off testimony that was given at the last meeting. And really what the board has to look at, one, are you meeting the quick check criteria, correct, and weighing those factors, but also was there a good faith reliance upon professionals in assessing whether there was an exceptional practical difficulty. So I can appreciate, of course, what you're saying, but we need to, of course, focus on those criteria at hand in determining what happened here, and also appreciating, of course, that these issues, however unfortunate, inappropriate, et cetera, do come up in this context, at least quite frequently in other jurisdictions.
So is that, which is one of my questions, Mackenzie. It's odd to be asking for legal advice in the middle of a public hearing, but
That's what I'm here for, right?
I understand that. Normally, you would like to have it.
I understand.
That's why we waited.
Can we go into executive session?
Well, I don't know if
for
we
legal
need to, and
advice? I don't know,
that's
yeah.
also her call. But is there precedent for considering reliance on the non-objection, because that's what we're talking about here, from the appropriate city official? Does that constitute exceptional practical difficulty in your judgment under the quick check factors?
Good question,
I
Bill.
think it depends. So I think what the
You sound like a lawyer.
I am right. So it does always depend. But what you need to look at is one, of course, the applicant is charged with the responsibility of knowing the code. But in the context of land use, building code requirements, et cetera, professionals are often engaged, relied upon, and local government is also involved and perhaps relied upon. So you need to assess whether or not, based on the testimony provided, if there was in your opinion, a good faith reliance upon professionals perhaps, as well as the local government in him proceeding with the project and of course now being back before you. All in the context, of course, and focusing on the fact that you must also meet the quick check criteria, correct? And you need to assess those factors in coming up with your decision.
And does it,
Thank you, Mackenzie.
does it matter that the applicant has spent excessive funds to this point? He has money strongly invested?
It's for the applicant to make that argument. However, in the quick check case,
And he
we
has,
do know that economic hardship is certainly a consideration.
Right.
And yeah, in terms of actually meeting that exceptional practical difficulty standard.
It's mentioned in Quick Check 4.
That's correct.
one
I
of the-
just
as
wanted to
part
hear
of
her
the-
say it.
as part of
All
the-
right, thank you. Is there any more questions for Matt?
No.
Only one,
So-
one quick one. Matt, we're taking approximately May 1st as the date that we found out that there was an error. Would you agree that at that May 1st date, when you found out there was an error, that Mr. Frankus had already invested a lot of funds, time, and effort into the property?
He certainly got a building permit.
He had a building permit, and it looked like he had refrigerators or stoves or whatever sitting in there. So I just want to make sure we all are in agreement that he had this done prior to finding out there was an error.
Yeah, and we can ask Mr. Frankus
We
when
will.
he fills
Right,
the
right.
go-ahead date. Okay,
That's
so
it. Edie had one more?
Well, I just wanted to reiterate then, so for 5 months plus, say November to May, he was, and I liked Bill's wording, there was a non-objection from the city.
Yeah, it's important to remember he can have a restaurant without alcohol.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm not going to let you do that, because that's why I asked you whether it was clear from the plans, and you said yes, that it was clear from the plans for a long time that there was a plan for alcohol.
I
Yes.
certainly can put a bar in my restaurant and not serve alcohol to it.
Oh,
Well, come
seriously, look,
I certainly can.
no, look, I like.
I'm not
Understood.
mincing words with you by any means. I'm just saying that
but
I can
is that
design my
okay?
interior restaurant.
You're now going to make me play lawyer. Is that what you understood to be when he said he was going to have a bar, that he was not going to serve liquor? Let's be-
Again, you could or could not serve
That
liquor
isn't-
in any restaurant.
Did you ask him if he was going to have a bar with no liquor?
Not specifically, no.
Is it, in your professional view, would you expect that if somebody's showing plans with a bar seating, that they are going to be serving liquor? Would that be your general understanding?
In any other municipality, I would absolutely agree that a bar designates alcohol service. But here, because we do permanent compliance, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to serve alcohol.
How many restaurants have bars where they don't serve liquor?
Couldn't tell you, but there are some out there.
Okay.
I think we should move on
Yeah.
to questions, any additional questions for Matt, and then perhaps questions.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm good, Matt.
Thank you for answering, Matt.
Turn it over to Mr. Frankus, and you were sworn in May, so I don't believe we have to
I agree.
swear.
Yeah, you're still under oath. Yeah.
Could I just give a couple exhibits?
Sitting near the mic.
Is it okay if I just present a couple exhibits?
Oh,
to you?
absolutely.
So one of these exhibits
They're
is
not,
a.
if you do that, they're not going to hear you on the
One of
video.
the exhibits is a sworn
No,
statement.
Talk there and then hand out.
Talk and
That's
then
what I
walk.
was doing. All right, so first
Make sure the
exhibit
mic is on. I don't think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay, excuse
So
me.
first exhibit is a sworn statement from my attorney as to the dates and times that he spoke to Matt Janis. He was not able to attend, so I do have sworn statements. Secondly, I wanted to present photographs of the area currently, and just know that within 30 days, you can't do this without significant investment prior to, it was April 30th, just so you know, I was
Okay.
notified April 30th, 9:30 in the morning.
Thank you, sir.
And you know Ann needs to have one too for the record. Okay.
Take your time.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Do you have enough copies? Thank you.
Pretty.
Oh,
Thank you.
Matt, do you want time to read this? Okay.
I have an extra.
Oh, you do have enough?
Yeah, I had one.
Yeah, I'd like Matt and Alex to take a look at this for, yeah. Thank you, by the board. So excuse the pause for a few seconds. Okay, board, let's let Mr. Frankus proceed.
I have one question. This affidavit says it's 105 South Boardwalk, where we've been dealing with 101 South Boardwalk. Is that just a typo, or what is it?
So the building has addresses of 101 to 111.
Okay, so it's a sequence.
And we had to file the liquor license
Hmm.
application to how the fire marshal shows the
Okay.
address, not necessarily the exact address of the location.
Answer given.
Okay,
Thank you.
so please proceed. With
Yeah,
any
so-
with any updates.
Yeah, so I think this just helps with a timeline, right? And two, clarification that a bar means liquor, right? So here on these dates, my attorney was instructed by me to seek professional advice from city officials that know the code. And at that time, we were informed that no variance was required to move forward with this project.
State that date again, please.
That was when, I believe we would make that notice as,
He's saying July 6th.
July 6th.
yeah, July 6th, we were first informed, and then we moved forward September.
Okay.
September 12th is the date that I sort of instructed all the professionals, the architects, engineers, environmental, everyone I need to do these plans to move forward. So that was that date of once I got final approval for what I could do the way we thought we could do it without a variance. I did know I had to go through permit of compliance though, right? I mean, that's more of a seating thing, not a liquor thing, right? Okay. And so, this is the timeline on the, after September 12th, I'm required before I submit building plans, not optional, required, okay. I have to meet with the city. And we did that 3 times before I made an official submittal.
And then what was the final date where you got the permit to start construction?
So I submitted for permit in January, maybe January 8th or 13th. And I got the permit probably 6 weeks later.
Okay. So we're saying mid-February, right? If you don't know
That's
the exact
correct.
date, okay?
Again, estimated, but right around that time. I don't have the exact date. It was.
And then just for the record again, state the date when you received notification that a variance was needed.
It was Tuesday, April 30th.
Okay.
I have a question. Jay Becker is a person who understands Rehoboth zoning, and he's been your attorney all along. So why wasn't he raising a red flag with you saying, I don't know what these cities folks or what we're hearing here, but this doesn't seem right to me? I'm wondering, I mean, we've talked about Matt's involvement here in his office, but now I'm asking you about your involvement with a person who understands zoning in Rehoboth Beach, who's saying here, and this is a great timeline, nothing against it at all, but why isn't he turning around to you and saying, hey, you know, something's not right here in River City? So what was he raising flags with you saying, I'm not sure we've got this right, we need to go back and figure this out, or we need to go back? I mean, what happened between you two, if I can ask you that question?
Yeah, so when we met in June.
Who?
Me and my attorney, Jay
Okay.
Becker. When we met, I went to him. and
June of 2023 or 2024?
2023, the date
Okay,
that's
right,
stated on
right.
here.
Okay, okay, okay.
So when I went to him, I've been in this now 30 years. But I don't know what laws come and go.
Sure.
Right? And I went to his office and I said to him, Matt, I think I have a recollection of some type of law that is stated within Rehoboth Beach that requires or may require us to have certain permissions. And his response to me is,
His meaning Jay.
Jay Becker, we're still in the meeting on June 5th,
Okay.
stated to me, I'm not aware of any of them. Like, I can't tell you why, but that was what he said to me. And at that meeting, I instructed him, I was like, well, I need you to meet with the city. Because at that time, I mean, this is June.
Sure.
I would have had plenty of
Year
time to
ago.
get in front of you guys.
It's a year ago.
Right? I mean, I would have had plans. I would have had designs. I already was in the midst of doing all this, right? It takes a long time to design a restaurant. So the whole intention was, hey, if I can do it, great. If I can't, okay, I need to sort of group, and like I made, like my discussion, my testimony last time was, I could have made business decisions based on that. So I took the city officials' guidance on 3 different occasions, plus through my whole building permit application process, which took months and months. I've met 6 times with them, with them being the city of Rehoboth and the officials up, right? I mean, how much more am I supposed to know?
Right, well, I wasn't really meaning that. I was wondering if Jay Becker ever raised, because you've been, it seems, if I can paraphrase, relying on professional opinions from 2 sources, the city and your own attorney. And neither one raised red flags about this. Both are knowledgeable in the zoning codes, but neither one seemed to raise flags with you over a 5-month period. And I'm wondering, what has Jay said, if you can share, since then, when you found out you have this issue? Is, I mean, oh, I missed it, or what? I mean, what's? Because he knows zoning in this city. He's not new to it.
I don't think any good attorney's going to admit that they missed
Well,
something.
right. I'll agree with you there.
mean,
but you know what I mean. I mean, is he?
I mean, again, I don't know what that relationship should be, right? Like, I didn't know that my lawyer should be here versus Fred, right? Like, again, you're taking, even with my own lawyer, I'm taking professional advice.
Sure.
Because I'm not a lawyer,
Well,
right?
that-
So, we had to stop the last meeting because my lawyer didn't show up because Fred was here, which should have been opposite. My lawyer should have been here and Fred shouldn't have been here.
It should have been a
right? So again, you're relying on professionals to sort of guide your
Right.
Why
the
again
process.
excuse me, why again is Mr. Becker not here?
Excuse me?
Why again is Mr. Becker not here?
Because he had a case
But
today.
you still haven't answered Edie's question,
that's it.
which was, if Mr. Becker does a lot of liquor work in Rehoboth, shouldn't he have known and advised you that no matter what the building inspector says, there's a court case, and,
Or investigated it.
or at least looked into it? That's what we're wondering. And we're not going to get an answer, I
Yeah,
can tell
and
you.
I don't think, I mean, I don't think
agree, Jan.
I have an answer for you. Like,
No,
I don't think that's like.
I'm not asking you that. I just wondered if there'd been, if you had felt that there had been other kinds of work that he had perhaps done on your behalf, and, or, anyway.
No, I mean, again, from our very first meeting on June 5th, he was very clear to me, he had no idea that there was a law that exists. That was, again, I don't know why. I don't know why he knows or doesn't. I mean, that would be, speculation. But I can tell you, there was never, ever 1 second of doubt that after he met with the officials and after I did, we went through the whole liquor process. I mean, like, why would you spend tens of thousands of dollars to go through state liquor process if you weren't sure you could do it, right? Because, the liquor, the state of Delaware can issue me a license, but that doesn't give me the right to use that license in the city of Rehoboth.
Thank you for your
Yes.
answer.
Mr. You want to continue, or we?
Yeah, I think, the photographs that I submitted, the one thing you can see is a significant investment,
Yeah.
right? Interior design firms, lighting firms, kitchen design firms, engineering, sprinklers, high quality everything, hand-picked everything, right? Certainly an asset for a community if there wasn't a variance required for liquor, right? Like, because I'm not, like, at this point, I'm just stating, like, what I've invested into it, both time,
Can I ask
money,
a
and
question on that,
expertise.
if I may, on that subject? And you may have told us this last time you were here, but I think we need it for the record. Can you tell us approximately how much of your own money you have invested, or money, anybody's money, you had invested up to the May 1st date when you found out that there was a problem?
So I have over $1 million personal dollars, no debt.
Up to that date invested, right?
That's correct. And there's no other investors or
Right.
the
And
only
that
owner.
includes the long-term lease and that you mentioned.
That doesn't, I mean, it doesn't include the value of the loan. I mean, this is actually cash.
And do you have
But
an
if I answer your question a little more clearly, as of the April 30th date.
the date is important.
You know, maybe, let me just think, from that date forward, because the building was generally done, you know, we had our fire inspections and things for hoods and all that by then. Maybe 150,000 less, because I've had to order signs once I got my sign permit and some little things like that.
And now that you're pretty well ready to open, and if this variance is rejected, how much do you think you will lose?
So I guess we would have to look at several aspects of that, right? One, you know, how many dollars went into the actual construction of the bar, right? All the bar equipment, all the subfloor plumbing, all the electricity, you know, everything that I purchased, right? Walk-in cooler for the beer. Then secondly, the monetary loss of the square footage of a space that is costing me X in rent, multiplied by that, and the inability to generate revenue in that space. Secondly, you know, I don't have tables there. I don't have flow, right? Like, I mean, it changes the dynamics of the space.
To say substantial seems inadequate. It'd be more than substantial. It would be.
I think in the average person's eyes, I think it would be very substantial.
Mr. Francis, in May, you mentioned your yearly lease. Can you restate that for us, for the board?
So I have a 5-year with 3 5-year options, 20-year lease.
Okay. And the yearly, do you mind telling us again the yearly rent you pay?
So it's escalating with CPI, but this year, I believe it's about 261,000.
Okay.
Plus CPI increases over 20 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Mr. Francis at this point? Jan?
No, I do not.
Okay, at this point, we are asking if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this case. Any just show of hands.
Can I just say I'm in favor?
No.
You have to come up and say, you know, introduce yourself and be sworn in.
Hi, I'm Jen Carroll.
Wait, now get started. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'll
Hi.
swear you in before you begin. Could
Okay.
you state your name and address for the record?
Jennifer Carroll, 8 Land's End, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can proceed.
I just want to say I'm in favor of it because I've heard throughout the grapevine of what's been happening and how obviously they would not have put all this money into it and built this beautiful restaurant. Because I walk on the boardwalk every day and look at it. It's really pretty. It's a really nice addition to our area. And I think it would be a very functional thing for our visitors to use, plus for like me who lives here, to have a place to stop and grab a bite, and if we want to have a drink with my husband, taking a walk on the boardwalk. And it looks awesome. But I also know that nobody would spend that kind of money, being a former business owner here in Rehoboth Beach, without some approval. You would not just go ahead and do that. I mean, none of us would go spend that kind of money unless someone had told us or given us some guidance, I think, to move forward. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
And I hope it gets passed. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Rick Perry, 46 Pennsylvania Avenue in Rehoboth Beach.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Just want to say that this is probably one of the most extreme cases of reliance by someone in this city on the advice of officials of the city. I mean, the detriment to this proprietor is incredible in terms of the dollars currently and the dollars that they will lose in the future if they are not granted this variance. Having once been a victim myself of relying on statements by officials of the city with respect to whether or not certain applications filed by a certain time would be considered, and a determination of approval or disapproval would be under the existing code. To then have a proposed code come in after we had filed our application and have it applied to us was very damaging. It cost me and my business partner $400,000 to get a swimming pool. And I thought that was bad enough. This is much more egregious. And I think that citizens and business owners here in town should be able to rely on what they're told by our city officials and not be put in this position. So I do hope that you find that these are extraordinary circumstances and that you will grant the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, actually, almost. Cindy Lovett, 4 Canal Street, Rehoboth Beach, 19971.
And my
Sorry.
turn. Yes, you're fine.
Let's do it.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I know Mike. I don't know Bob. We've never met. But I have to tell you, he is a sharp businessman. And I don't think Mike would have proceeded if he knew what was coming down the road. I really just respect his business sense. And I just wanted to pass that forward. This is a guy that knows what he's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, my name's Alicia Keller. I live at 3 Queen Street, and I just want to say
I'll
too.
also swear you. I need to swear you
sorry.
before
Yes,
you
sure.
begin. Sorry. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please speak up. Yeah.
Oh, great. Sorry.
Please state your name and address again.
Yes, Alicia Keller, 3 Queen Street, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971. I just want to say too, I really don't show up to these things or anything, but I have been watching the progress. Very excited about this restaurant coming in. I'm hoping my son actually gets to work there soon. And I just really hope that I hope that he will be granted this. I couldn't even imagine being a business owner, what he's feeling, the stress, the money, when you're trying to actually improve something in the city. And I am just disappointed that it's 4 years later and I've experienced the same thing as a residential person building a home residentially, of just stress from trusting, the officials and everything like that. So it happens more than it should. And I really hope that there can be a process that we as business owners and homeowners who want to continue to be in the city and build, I've done 3 homes here, that we can trust. And that we don't have this issue. It makes me sick, like for him, because I know what it feels like to turn a truck away and to stare at your house for 2 months because you can't get in for something that wasn't on your end. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One more time. Not more. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, everyone who spoke. And at this point, we're going to close down the public commentary, and the board will open it up discussion amongst ourselves before we take ask for a motion or take a vote. So I think I want to start with this one to the board. I kept reading and rereading 270-19 in total, and I understand the variance is on number 4, subset 4. But where I get hung up, not hung up, but I just get this warning light, is that the city put in this additional sentence at the end. It says, oh, by the way, if you have a hotel, of a certain size, we'll allow you more square footage. And I started thinking, why? And then I started thinking even further. I did some research on all the way back to, I think, 2010 on a previous case where 2 restaurants in one building. And I thought this code was written to prevent large bars that might serve food, and we heard testimony before where people used to put in toaster ovens and hot plates and call themselves restaurants. And I thought, that code was probably put in there to prevent just large bars like we've seen, in towns south of us. And the more I look at it, and then I look at, again, getting back to the quick check factors, I have no problems with, quick check factor 1 and 2. Same thing, again, I'm focused in on 3, and understanding, and then number 4, the hardship. You're paying a lot of rent to sell tacos. And I just think that's a very hard thing to get over. And I keep looking at this and saying, I'm trying to read what the commissioners put in there, why they wrote this the way they did, why they gave an exception to hotel, and thinking, okay, we know we don't want these type of bars in the city, but we're kind of okay with it. And then in the previous case, again, I'm not using evidence from the previous case in 2010 at First Street Station, where it occurred, that the Board of Adjustment approved, the commissioners approved. I understand that, and putting all the date agenda things to the side, whether that sways me, it sways me to supporting a financial hardship. I just think that I feel that there's a financial hardship here. And that's just the way I'm leaning on this. So I want to open it up and argue with me and knock me down on this if you want.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Edie.
I'm never shy. The quick check factors, I agree. I'm going to start with agreeing with you. I think number 1 and 2 are no-brainers. They're okay. 3, the only way you would be worried about whether removal of the restriction would seriously affect the neighboring properties, I'd say is unlikely, unknown but unlikely, because it would only be if noise and congestion were increased in some way. So I too think number 3 is not an issue. Number 4, I'm in favor of approving this variance based on the inadequate and incorrect professional advice received over a 5-month period, as well as the exceptional practical difficulty that I see, like you, Barry, of financial and also time, because time is money in business. So they're expended based on that advice from what we can conjecture, and two sources anyway, either misunderstanding, whatever you want to call it. There was a disconnect in the advice given on both sides, in my view. So I'm in favor. The only thing I'm wondering is, as we've been doing more and more, do we put any limits on the variance if we decide to approve it? Are there any? Sometimes we've had a limit, particularly if there were measurements involved.
I would have no restrictions on.
That's my feeling, but I
mind.
wanted to ask my my colleagues here if you saw any reason to have a restriction if we should approve it.
Mark, any thoughts?
Just a thought. It's interesting that if Mr. Frankus had come to us a year ago when he should have been told and come, we probably would have turned this down because he would have had no hardship. Today he comes here with a very, very strong hardship. And I believe that and there were mistakes made, and mistakes happen, things happen.
Yeah, but I tried to separate the mistakes out of my thoughts when I kept reading 270-19, thinking a short season, selling tacos, high rent that's escalating over years. And I said, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, from a financial perspective, not even including the construction investment he put in, which is additional practical difficulty. I felt, that's a lot of rent to pay to sell tacos.
You need that beer. You need the beer money.
So last year, that would have entered my mind back then.
But we are here now, and I do think he has an exceptional difficulty, a financial exceptional difficulty, because he relied on the city and made enormous financial obligations on himself to present this business. So I would definitely be in favor of the variance.
Right. Jan, thoughts?
Well, you know how upset I am about this whole process. The process to me has been awful. The fact of the matter is, if he had come to us a year ago, I would not have given him a variance. I mean, this is down by Funland. It's not my favorite place for, serving alcohol and everything. And he could have opened a taco stand there and just sold tacos, and he wouldn't have spent that much money and, blah, 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 blah. But he relied. And I know, Bill may point out, courts have ruled in cases in Rehoboth that you cannot rely on the building inspector. They did it down at Baymart, and I believe they did it in the one on Rehoboth Avenue. But this is appalling to me. This whole case has been appalling, and it's, to me, a continuation of other things that have happened all along. So I would probably be in support of it.
Okay. Bill, your thoughts?
Barry, my thinking is very similar to yours. I do think that it meets the exceptional practical difficulty because of all the issues that everybody else has said in terms of reliance. I also think that while there is clearly a technical reading on sub 4 that this is the same building, I don't think that the owner here is gaming the system in saying, well, I'm going to try to exceed it by calling this 2 different places. I do think that I've been there. It's quite separated. It looks very different. It's a very different feel between Above the Dunes
and that's my thought. It's no gaming, 2 completely separate. And if you go back and look at First Street Station, at the time it's been changed over. They were completely one on one floor, the other on another floor, almost a basement-like restaurant.
So I'm fine on the quick check factors because of the reliance, and I'm less concerned maybe than Jan is in terms of where we would have been a year ago. We're not there, so in a lot of ways it's irrelevant. But I also, and it's easier for me given the sense I don't think that they're gaming this, and it really is the way that building is set up. You actually enter in a different area because you enter on the side for Above the Dunes.
Above the Dunes,
so you don't even have the sense that you're picking a door and having 2 different places. So I'm fine on the quick check.
And did any of you have any additional thoughts? Again, that 2719, A4, that last sentence about the hotel, that just bothered me. That the city was making an exception to try to prevent, I believe, large bars.
Oh, no, I don't think that's what they were trying to do. I think they were trying to look at how hotels are laid out and indoor and outdoor and multiple floors and stuff like that. No, I don't think it had anything to do with large bars, not back then.
And as you said, there is no large bar issue here because they are so separate.
That's correct, yes.
We have Mary Ann here today, and perhaps this would be a good opportunity to point out how we could do better next time. And a simple checklist would have been ideal, where we checked off, do we have the square footage? Do we meet the FAR? Do we have more than 1 restaurant in the building, et cetera? So it might be something worth looking into.
Well, that would be up for the commissioners to.
Right, well, the lady's right over there that does it.
Okay.
Barry, back to limits, and I'm not suggesting them. If we grant this variance, we're saying unlimited, right?
Unlimited what?
Well, an unlimited amount of square footage till the end of time also, because it goes, unlimited square footage can be for the bar area.
Right, if another company.
In the building, so somebody could buy Above the Dunes, somebody could buy, I'm just saying.
Understood.
The variance requested is, though, for the 1335 square foot. So that is what if you decided to approve, that's what you would be granting.
Forever, yeah.
Right.
For the
Only
the building to
Only
carry
that,
that.
correct,
Only
not
that.
some
Okay.
unlimited square footage now.
Sometimes it's been a little more open-ended, and we've put parameters
Oh, I see the point you're making, Edie, yeah.
around it, so that we were sure what square footage we were actually talking about.
Understood.
So,
Yep.
but I'm good with that now.
Okay. Okay, I would like to ask for a motion from the board.
Well, I move that we grant the variance as stated.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, before we go down that, I want to hear your reasoning, Mark.
I felt that there was a an exceptional difficulty, an economic, financial difficulty that was not caused by the applicant, but that was caused by the lack of knowledge on the city.
Thank you. Edie?
I'm in favor. As I mentioned in my previous speaking, criteria 1, 2, and 3 are is absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. And criteria 4, we have an economic hardship that was produced by inadequate, incorrect, or misunderstood by the city officials, and I think perhaps by the gentleman's attorney as well, in that he was not given the level of advice that would have really helped him so he wouldn't be at this point. He has an extreme practical difficulty, financial one, and I think we should grant it.
Okay. Jan?
I think he has an extreme practical difficulty, and I have to agree with Edie based on two things. Based on perhaps his attorney should have known what the code was in Rehoboth, and certainly the building inspector should have known what the code was in Rehoboth. And the investment has been tremendous, and it's a long-term investment with the 20-year lease. So, I approve.
And Bill?
Yeah, I join with my fellow board members. I think that he's demonstrated the exceptional practical difficulty for all the reasons stated, and I support the granting the variance.
Thank you, Bill. I agree with everything Edie said for the exceptional practical difficulty. In addition, I believe the rent that they have to recover or make money also adds to that as well. So I think we're good to go, and this is approved with the entire board. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you for your patience.
Okay. And we have no other business today?
Not to,
That's right. All right, everyone, thank you for attending. This meeting's adjourned.